everybody. We have a special guest today. Her name is Libby. She's a very beautiful soul. I've known her for a bit now, and she came to me for a reading. And when I heard what she does, I was like, "What is this? I got to give this a try." So I bought a bunch, like a lot of her little formulas that she does. Because she told me she does like this, she sets an intention with light language and infuses, these little drops of water that actually, the more diluted it gets, the more powerful it is. And I'm like, this is amazing, right?
Yeah.
So, and I just loved, what I did is I took like a 2-gallon container, or like the big containers. I don't remember how many gallons or whatever, but a big container of water. And I just dropped I think just one drop in each one. And so that would be very diluted. And
Yes.
it was awesome. I mean, I just love drinking the water. You can feel the good vibes in it and everything. So her company is DNA Elements. And I will let her introduce herself and tell you a bit about her background. Can you tell us how did they, you can go as far back as you want to in terms of how did this whole thing get started, and yeah, what's your history? How did you get here?
Holy moly. Life has been an incredible journey. It's amazing all the time. Still, yeah, all kinds of surprises. I always liked science. In fact, when I was little, I went to a saltwater beach with a friend, and I didn't want to play with her. All I wanted to do was grind up the moss in the salt water. Okay, so that should be a clue. But I just took science classes and in college, but didn't know what I wanted to do. Then I worked odd jobs for 8 years, and then finally decided I got to get out of here and I need to go to graduate school. And what I kept having in my head was, I want to clone things. I didn't even know what that meant. So I started visiting colleges, universities, and I thought that would be the Department of Genetics. No, I didn't even know what molecular biology was, but that was basically what I was looking for. And I wound up going to Texas, University of Texas at Dallas. And wow, that was amazing. It was the scariest thing I've ever done. And the most, I was scared, and I was afraid of failing, and I was afraid of succeeding.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that. That's for sure.
Yeah. But I studied molecular and cellular biology, and
Jeez, that's not intimidating.
and that's where I actually felt, oh, this is what I want to do, research. When I started doing research, I felt so excited. This is it. So I love to do research. And even then, saying that though, science is only a tool. It's only a tool. It's useful sometimes, and sometimes it's not. So it needs to be applied where it's useful. But I love science, and I used to believe I would only trust what I could see, measure, hear. I didn't believe in God or anything. So that was my life. What can I validate? And but after graduate school, I did postdoctoral fellowships. I worked in the field of gene therapy and genetically engineered viruses, and even isolated a new strain of a virus, and it was patented. So it actually made money, which just surprised me. And that actually was what was able to use that money to start my business with.
Wow,
And
that's so interesting.
I created a molecular biology lab in a motor home. So that's why my business is called Mobile DNA Elements.
Ah,
So
mobile DNA element. How interesting. Now, what would somebody like if they bought a VIRUS? What would they do with it? Why? Who would pay for something like that? What would they do with it?
right, it's a good question. For mostly for gene therapy purposes.
Okay,
Um,
okay. You know
right,
where I was going with that.
nefarious means. Yeah, right. But this is a
Okay.
whole field,
Yeah, yeah.
and companies are really working hard in gene therapy. And of course,
Yeah.
it could be used for benefit or not benefit, but
Right, right.
um, our purpose for patenting this was to make it available to many companies who want to buy a license to it so that they could do their experiments with it and see if it works for gene therapy. Like a common thing that apparently lots of companies like to try out this virus with is using gene therapy in the eyes for like macular degeneration. Um,
Okay, okay.
and apparently they've had some success. Um,
That's awesome.
mhm.
So you're a macrobiologist, is that what you are, or what is your title?
Like molecular biologist, which usually refers to DNA type stuff.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And in gene therapy, the idea of using viruses for gene therapy is that you actually take out the bad guts of the virus, of the DNA of the virus, you take out the bad stuff to it and don't let it replicate, and you put in a gene in there that will cure something.
Huh.
And then grow up this new engineered virus, and then you would then give it to a person, maybe intravenously or somehow some other way. And viruses do what they do is they inject their DNA inside cells.
Okay. I think we have to be careful of that word.
Yeah.
So let's try to say V or something like that. I mean, we've already said it like 5 times. So I mean, I don't know if it's a flag or not, but just in case, we gotta be careful. Okay, so
Yeah.
you inject DNA into the V. Okay. And then
Mhm. And then grow that up and give that to a person, and that will insert their DNA
huh,
into cells, because
okay.
that's what they know how to do. That's their
Okay.
mechanism. That's
Huh.
what they know how to do.
So did you ever get into clones or cloning or
Clone
any of that?
um, in in the lab. Well, cloning, it means a little bit different from how people use it outside the lab.
Okay.
It's like we did cloning things every day in a way in the lab. We would uh
Like clone cells rather than
mhm,
people.
right.
Okay.
So we would grow mammalian cells. It could be monkey or human cells in the lab, or bacterial cells, and insert DNA for various genes in them, depending what we wanted to do,
Okay.
and select clones of those cells to grow up and study them. So
Hmm.
that was very routine.
How interesting.
Yeah.
So, where did you get the idea to start? Okay, so you went for training, or what happened? What's your relationship to the water guy? And can you tell that story?
Yes. Um, well, I had finished graduate school and was in postdoctoral fellowships at University of Washington, and just having to decide, well, what was going to be my next job, because the postdoctoral fellowships are relatively short-term jobs. And I had also, in the meantime, started studying with a meditation teacher, and there was a meditation group. So I started this started opening up a whole lot of things for me. It's like, whoa, there's a lot going on that I never knew about. And I started getting some ideas that I was going to work with brain waves and DNA, and didn't know what that meant. So I started talking to people, but so my life just kind of took a different direction. I had to decide whether I wanted to go up the professional ladder, so to speak, or do something that was more in line with my own happiness. Because the professional ladder is a very difficult way to go. It's full of stress, and there's benchmarks that you have to make, or else you won't be funded, and you won't be able to have a lab, and you might not be able to get a lab anyway. So, and I began having more awarenesses of things and experiences and memories and things, not a lot, but some. And so I retired from my teaching. Well, with this meditation group, several of us moved to Montana, and then I started teaching at a tribal college, Salish Kootenai College, and then I was there for 11 years and retired from that, and so that was a time for a lot of big change in my life then too, after I retired. And I went on a trip to Mount Shasta, and on that trip was a lady from Dr. Emoto's office, Dr. Masaru Emoto. And I was showing her my radionics instrument that I brought with me, and she was talking about a Hado instrument. And Hado means frequency in Japanese. But she was describing this instrument, and I said, oh, wow, I got to know about this. And so a lot of things I've done and decisions I've done have been by muscle testing, which I learned, learning a modality, a healing modality. I learned muscle testing, and I could do it by myself.
How do you do that? Can you describe that real quick?
I do it by standing, and so it's yes or no questions and answers. So if I stand and I ask a question or make a statement, and if it's true or yes, my body will naturally lean forward.
Okay.
And then if it's a no, it will just naturally lean backward.
I've heard that referred to as the human compass.
Okay. Yep. Or applied kinesiology, some people call it.
Okay. That's pretty much just what you use, the standing up, forward and back.
Yep.
Wow.
And the more practice I've gotten with it, I can also feel if something is interfering with it, because there's plenty of that. So I always make a caution to people to, be on the lookout for interference, learn to feel yourself and what sounds right and what doesn't. And I ask a series of test questions too, like, I am receiving correct information, or I am receiving interference, and and see what my answers are. Or
interesting.
Because it's a really
another way to discern.
Validation, discernment, yes, of
amazing
correct information.
Yeah. Okay, so you brought your equipment to the office to measure frequencies.
So I muscle tested to see whether to buy this instrument from Dr. Emoto's office. I got a yes, like, whoa, okay. And then they were having a training like in October. Is it highest and best for me to go there? Yes. Oh, okay. I never been
Here
there.
I go.
Yeah. Okay, I'm off. I guess I better make plane reservations pretty quick. And it was a week of classes, and it was amazing. It was amazing to be there, and in the classes, and the information was overwhelming to me. So it was amazing, and that was October 2019, and actually just before things broke out in the world.
Thank you.
I know. In my field where I was doing genetic engineering, that language is so common, and it's like, wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now it's like, woo, you sneezed.
So,
was that a cough? So many sensitivities now.
So when I came home, I tested that machine every which way I could. I measured all kinds of things with it, and how do I know it was actually giving me correct information? Because I don't know. It's given me some information. How do I know to trust it or not?
Right, right.
So I measured what I could, and then it was amazing. But then the next year, I actually purchased another instrument from them, and this one did a scan of your entire body with images, standard images, but overlaid on the images are 20 to 50 points of measurement that it would measure you real time for out of balance issues.
Wow.
And then it would have codes, and both of these instruments have codes, and you can imprint water with these codes. It could be 50,000 codes going into water, custom water that I would make for a person. So, wow. And then with that water, I also added an imprinted water that I had made, I called Dr. Libby's Magic Potion. And that was the first water I made based on some symbols. So I would add to it what information Dr. Emoto's, the instruments from Emoto's office gave. I would add to it the energy of the magic potion. So that made it much stronger. And I measured this. It enhanced and amplified the effects of the other codes.
Wow.
What I paired it with, it would enhance that modality, beneficial modality. Yeah.
So it just creates more of the good stuff that's already there, kind of. Would it create more of the bad stuff if the bad stuff is there? Okay.
No, it's the codes in the water. The codes in the water are to balance, to balance. And so it would enhance that balancing effect.
Wow. Yeah. So can you explain why? I mean, everything else in the world, the more diluted it gets, the less powerful it is. So how in the world is it the opposite in your case?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I don't know how. I just noticed that it does that. What I have seen is that the magic potion, it's stronger and stronger as you dilute it. But if you have the imprinted water with codes, say from Emoto's office, from those instruments, and it didn't have magic potion in it, it would not be stronger when you dilute it. Those codes are not stronger when they're diluted. But if I add magic potion to it, then it is stronger when they're diluted. That's what I'm seeing anyway.
Whoa, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I put like, whenever I refill my cat's water, I put like 1 drop for the whole container. So, and they seem to really like it.
Oh, good.
And one thing I love about what you do also, and I want to ask you, how in the world you came into the light language also, but one thing that's cool about what you do that I love is that you measure everything beforehand. And I had tons of nanobots, and you measured my skin cancer and all that stuff. And so I had a before picture of what it looked like.
Mhm.
And then I hadn't told you that actually my skin cancer had increased, but I have ways of dealing with it now, like using the BioShield and all kinds of things. Also, like a little pimple will come up and I just put something on it and it's gone like instantly. But they do pop up quite a bit, or they had at that time. They were really kind of coming up all over the place. And so I was constantly like, okay, be gone, be gone. And you didn't know that, but you did a report for me and you said, well, it's been a couple months, so I'm going to, do some numbers. And you just gave them to me without me asking or anything. And you said
Right.
all of it had disappeared just about. I mean, it was all like, it just went down tremendously, except the skin cancer had increased,
Yeah.
which I was blown away by that you could possibly have known that. So I knew that for me was like massive validation. And I felt like it was some kind of a purging, like it was just the last of it was like spitting out like crazy. And then you said, I sense that, it's a final purging. And I was just like, okay, that does it for me. Like, that's amazing. She picked up
Yeah.
on the same thing I did.
Hmm.
So, like, okay, so I mean, yeah. So how in the world did you start incorporating light language with all this?
Um, that started when I saw, well, a friend had sent me this humongous crystal. Actually, it's right here. It's an amazing crystal. Um, it's a smoky
Wow.
amethyst.
Wow, that's gorgeous.
And actually, I believe it's not from this planet,
Wow.
but it's been with me in many lifetimes,
Amazing.
not on this planet.
Wow.
They sent me this and I started exploring with it because it seemed really special. Um, and so one day I kind of saw in my mind's eye, I guess, this letter pop out of the top of it. A letter, it looked like a Greek letter tau.
Wow.
Okay, I thought that was its name,
Huh.
but it wasn't. I realized later, I began um, receiving more symbols. Um, and but then became aware that, oh, this is a language. And at that time, the place where I was taking classes, in the office, they had a palm tree that nobody watered, so it was dying. So I took it home. They laughed because they called it the plant hospital, and uh, um, did my best to bring it back to health. So I was going to use these symbols to bring it back to health. Um, and uh, so I was muscle testing actually on, okay, what symbols do I need to see more symbols? Okay, if I did, then okay, what are they? Show me. And I would get an impression of something in my mind's eye and then write it down and say, is this correct? Okay,
Mm.
yes. All right.
Wow.
Okay, here are the symbols. Then what order do they go in? How many symbols do I need? And then what order do they go in? Okay, the first was 3 symbols. And so I wrote that down on a paper and put it on the plant, on the pot. And then kind of waited. But after a couple of weeks, okay, I needed more symbols. Oh, okay. So it was a different set. This was 6 symbols long, and there were some new ones I needed to see. Okay. Then after a couple of weeks, then it was another set of symbols. It was 25 symbols. Oh my goodness. Okay. I needed more symbols. This one was more challenging because the previous symbols had been in a linear, sort of a left to right reading. When I was figuring out the order for the symbols for this 25 symbol one, it in the center of it, the symbols actually went in a vertical column instead of left to right.
Interesting.
So it went left to right on each of the sides of it for about 6 or 8 symbols, but in the center, they were in about 3 vertical columns.
Huh.
So that was a little challenging to figure out. I do it all by muscle testing, but I didn't think of vertical columns until struggling with it for a while.
Okay.
So then once I made that, then I started measuring it on the radionics, measuring the energy of it on the radionics instrument. The energy was like through the roof. And I took it to one of my teachers, and he put his hand on it and is like, wow, that's so strong, it hurts my hand. Yeah.
Wow.
So I didn't feel anything, but he did.
Wow.
So then I had some friends over, and we were just kind of playing around with these symbols and things, and one of them suggested adding colors to it, and it turned out if I surround the entire thing with all the colors of the rainbow, that increased the energy a lot. And then I tried with the radionics, transferring that energy into some water. So that energy went into the water. So then that's what became Dr. Libby's magic potion.
Wow. And now you have like 10 of them, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
10 different types.
Yeah.
She's got kinds that'll take the V out.
Yes.
The kind one that is all about loving everything, and just like everything radiating out love, receiving love, reciprocation of love. What are some other ones you've got?
There's one called emotional peace, which has that love one in. Emotional peace is actually a very interesting one, and it's kind of going to be the topic of a workshop I'm creating.
Cool.
Because what I saw, and actually I think Dr. Emoto is helping me with these things. He passed in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's helping me, because what his main thing is that emotions cause diseases. And so what I was seeing is the pathway, almost like a biochemical pathway with the arrows and everything, of how it is that emotions, unresolved emotions is what I call it, lead to diseases.
Absolutely.
And the first step is underlying all unresolved emotions, or all negative emotions, basically is fear. So
Absolutely,
from stress and anxiety to horror and terror, underneath all those would be fear.
Yeah.
And
love. It's
so
always it's either fear or love.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why I created the love of all creation one.
I love that one.
To neutralize that fear.
Awesome.
So that's the first part of the equation. And then in fear, what I saw is that when you're in fear, your cells retract. Just like you would go in like this, perhaps in a protective mode, your cells retract too. And when that happens, the ions in exchange in a cell that happens is not balanced and doesn't happen very well. So the cells become out of balance metabolically. Then when that happens, it disrupts the mitochondria of your cells, which create your energy. And when that happens, it's like the signal goes out, the fire alarm is pulled, the signal goes out to the rest of your body, alert, we're in trouble here, and send the fire department to quench this. So, and then when that happens, it starts inflammation. There's a whole inflammation cascade that happens. And then even the mainstream medical system will say that inflammation is the biggest cause of disease. So that leads to all kinds of diseases, especially chronic diseases. So if all those things in that pathway keep happening for years and years and years, that's the result is chronic diseases.
That makes so much sense.
And so I have the codes in the water, in the emotional peace water, to neutralize the ion imbalance in cells, and to neutralize the mitochondrial functions in cells, and to neutralize the inflammation. So I have codes to neutralize each of those steps.
That's awesome. And which one is that in? The love of all creation. Emotional peace. Okay.
Peace,
Wow.
which emotional peace has love of all creation in it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So,
Um,
and
do you want
then
to show us those diagrams?
mhm,
Some of those diagrams to show. Okay.
the crystals or
The ones you showed me before we got on.
um,
Whatever you want to show us.
okay.
Show us
Well,
some examples of things.
well, since we were talking a little bit about magic potion, I'll show these
Okay.
pictures.
Yeah.
That when I went to Japan to Emoto's office for training, I also took some magic potion with me and asked them to do their crystallization process with it.
Oh, wow.
So Dr. Emoto's office is known for doing these beautiful images of crystals of water, and they come out like almost like snowflakes,
Yeah.
hexagons and beautiful crystal and shapes. And and his book where he published those pictures is very popular in this country. It's called Messages from Water. So I took some magic potion with me and gave it to them and asked them to do their crystallizing process with the magic potion and see what kind of crystals would be formed.
Okay.
And so they do this. They make like 50 petri dishes of water, 50 different petri dishes. So, and they photograph them. And so these are at least, these are photographs of the crystals that they got. And this is basically a time lapse. And you can kind of see the crystal growing a little bit.
Wow.
And
Beautiful.
um, here's some more. I know there's some reflection. Let's see if I can get this.
Wow.
Yeah. So each one and each picture is different, but my intuition said that these would be complex and three-dimensional crystals. And that's what it shows.
Wow.
They're three-dimensional because it's going out of the plane of focus. And I was so excited to get these.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
Right.
Wow. Okay. So what about the other diagrams you were showing me where you,
Yeah.
deuterium?
Yes.
Show them the deuterium thing that you worked on.
Right.
She saw my video about the deuterium and decided to do, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I did some tests. I did them last night and this morning, actually. So because I had done something similar with the radiation from Fukushima power plant meltdown, I set my radionics instrument to neutralize that radiation. And just real quick, and I took measurements, and I sent the energy. Oops, here we go. So this was in December of 2020. And so this is the arrow is when I started sending the energy to neutralize the radiation. So it was first at a 7 out of 10. And when I sent that energy, when I measured it, it went way down like this to essentially 0. Like, this surprised the heck out of me.
Amazing.
Wow. I sent it just to the whole world. Okay.
Wow.
And then I didn't think about it for a long time, for a couple months, and then measured again, and it had actually gone back up to 7. I don't know why.
Wow.
So then I sent the energy again right here. I sent the energy to neutralize it, and it went down there, and I didn't really measure it after that. So it's like, wow. I mean, I guess, I mean, I could keep sending it, but I didn't for whatever reason. It's like, wow, that's amazing. So, so I did something similar with the deuterium. So last night, well, I created a code in the radionics for deuterium, and I can make up codes. All I have to do is pick a number that I haven't used before, and with the intention, say that this code is for deuterium, and then it's linked. It's consciously linked. And so It's a code for deuterium. And like everything, all the other codes, it's actually to bring balance. The code isn't reduce deuterium, it's just a code for deuterium. And it will send whatever to balance that.
Wow.
Right. So, so I measured last night, I measured some water for deuterium. And I had a glass of water from my tap, which is well water. And it was at an 8 out of 10. So that's pretty high. Where 10 is the worst. Well, actually, with intention, I set 10 to be at 200 parts per million.
Okay.
All right. And so glass of water was at 8. And I also asked about the average on the whole earth, what is the parts per million? And I got a 7. Okay, well, these are all relative numbers from 0 to 10, but what does that mean for actual concentration? And I got, by muscle testing, I saw that an 8 was 135 parts per million and 7 was 130 parts per million.
Wow.
That's just by my muscle testing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I set the radionics to send the energy overnight, and this morning I measured the same glass of water that I let sit out, and it was at a 2. It was like, I double checked that. I measured it again. It was correct. And then I got a new glass of water, and it was at a 2. And then I measured the average over the whole earth, and it was at a 2. So that floored me. And when I muscle tested what that concentration is, I get 17 parts per million.
Whoa.
And so what I saw was that 17 parts per million is the natural level of deuterium on the planet.
Right, because yeah, they're saying that a certain amount of it is actually is natural. It's okay. It's too much of anything that makes it unhealthy or starts turning it toxic or whatever.
And so what I also asked was then, is 17 parts per million the optimal for human health? Yes.
So wow, this is the power of intention too. It's like we could be blessing our own water or having the intention to balance the deuterium, and at the simultaneously be imagining it that intention going out to the whole world, all water.
Yep.
And we could be helping our plants and our animals drinking water. And
yes.
wow.
And with this, I also asked, did the 17 parts per million also, was that also in humans? Yes, I got a yes. So that means that if we trust this data, that we are at humans now are at 17 parts per million. It would be really, really neat if some companies that measure the deuterium levels, if they could measure someone now and see what they get.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And you've started speaking light language too, right?
Yes.
How are you coming up with that? The same way? Just like pronunciating something and then getting a yes or no with it?
Muscle testing, yeah.
Wow.
I was just kind of sitting around, and I heard in my head some of the sounds like ote ah. Okay, what's that? I wrote it down. I go, is this correct? I wrote it down phonetically. Is this correct? Yes. And is this the language? I was probably thinking about how do you pronounce the language, because I had been seeing symbols of this same light language as the symbols I've been working with, but I had been wondering, how do you pronounce this? How do you say it? And so I heard these like single syllable type words and wrote them down. And so then kept getting more. It's like, okay, is there more? Yes. Okay. Show me what that is. And I would sort of get an impression and write it down. Is that correct? Yes. So
And by the way, that's how diligent we should be about every decision we're making right now, everybody. Everything we go to do, we could do what she's doing.
Yeah.
Is this something I should be doing right now? Is this something I should be eating right now? Is this something that is this the best decision for me?
Yes. And I always ask, the way I ask it is this the highest and best? Rather than it's like a should, because that feels like an obligation to me. So
oh yeah. You do have to watch your words. Yeah, you do have to watch your words.
Yes, it is. And you've said this before, it's very tricky how you ask questions, and it's very, you have to be very careful how you word something.
So is this for my best and highest good? Yeah, to be doing this right now, or to eat this right now. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so you put together all these different, and so now you're going to be using the language part also when you're infusing the water.
Yes. Oh man.
Cool.
So now, it just keeps getting more and more. Now I'm combining that light language that I speak. So I got actually several phrases and several different, I call it a statement, several different ones. Now I'm combining that with using the Tibetan singing bowl.
Ooh, wow.
And saying it at the same time I'm playing the bowl.
Oh, wow.
It's very
You got to make an album. Are you going to make an album?
Well, I hadn't thought about that.
Yes, make a CD. I'll be the first to buy one. Yeah, that'd be great.
See, a lot of the things I have done are because people ask me, can you do this? Or what about this? And I go, well, I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah, right.
Give it a try. And it works. Yeah.
Amazing. This is so exciting. I mean, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
What's your website?
It's mobilednaelements.com.
Okay.
So it's MOBILE DNA and ELEMENTS plural.com.
Awesome. So you could probably tackle just about any issue somebody has.
What I'm seeing more and more with clients and is that I do less of having to figure out what their particular issue is, or is this from a past life? Is the origin of this in a past life, and then ask it to be cleared. It seems like I need to do less of that, and just saying the light language and or playing the Tibetan bowl seems to clear it and take care of it. And I'm also test. Do I need to do anything else? No. Oh, okay. Right. Are we done? Yeah.
It's all intention. Can you balance whatever the imbalance is? Sure. Yeah. Whatever the cause of this issue is, can we just, that's kind of how I work it too. When I'm working in someone's field or doing energy work on someone and whatnot, it's I don't have to overanalyze it too much. I just, can we take care of this? Yeah.
Yes, that's amazing. And what I've seen in me is kind of an evolution process for me, because I started out thinking of neutralizing or releasing every little detail. And then I see, once I do that more, I don't need to do it that way. It's easier. I just say, oh, do it.
I mean, I can't wait to see all that we're capable of coming up here in the coming times, when the dust starts to settle. It'd be like, this type of deal. And then all of a sudden, like Superman's cloak.
Yes.
People can be flying, doing all kinds of crazy, lifting cars with their fingers. I just intended it.
Yes. Yes.
We're capable of so much more than we've been taught and programmed to know about ourselves,
Right. And
just amazing.
Actually, like the radionics instrument has been described as and sometimes an intention machine. So it helps to amplify your intentions. And the actual instrument, some say, is actually your own body. And the radionics just amplifies it so you can see it better.
That is really neat. That is really cool. Can the normal person go get a radionics machine?
No, um, I believe they're not allowed to be manufactured here. So
Really?
you can order them from England or Germany, but they can't be manufactured. So most of what's here in this country is people make their own. And mine was made for me by my teacher and was
Okay.
built into a briefcase.
Oh, that is so fun. Oh,
I can,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah, let's see it.
I can hold it up. Yeah. It's a whole bunch of knobs. And in a briefcase is really nice. It's got 12 knobs.
Wow.
And on one of those white plates, you put a sample you want to read. And on the other white plate, that's where you put your hand, your fingers to detect the number.
Okay.
There's, yeah, but actually what I was seeing is that and there is such a thing called paper radionics, and which instead of having a whole machine like that, which in this one there are no electricity and no batteries, it only has crystals and wires connecting the knobs. But what you can do is something called paper radionics, and you can draw a essentially the structure of what I just showed you on my instrument. You can draw that on a piece of paper and connect the lines, sort of like a circuit diagram. And one place can be where you put the sample. One place is where you can touch it to make the reading. And another place is a knob where you can intuitively read what the number is on a scale of 0 to 10. So that helps. You can do that by your own intention. And this would make it easy for people to do on their own, where they don't have to try and find a radionics instrument. And there's a bit of a learning curve. In fact, I got so frustrated learning it, I cried because I just couldn't get it. I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it.
Wow.
So
How would somebody come across the instructions for that?
For paper radionics, you could probably search it online. But I was thinking of drawing a diagram so that people could use it.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I'll share that on my community tab if you'll send it to me.
Yeah, that would be fun.
With any instructions as to, what to do with each of the knobs or whatnot, that'd be awesome.
Right. And then if people tried it out, they can sort of report what their results are.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
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 That would be a lot of fun.
Somebody's knocking on my door.
Oh.
Okay. Is there anything you want to tell us about in ending? Any advice or any? Hi, Nala. You should come up here, honey. I can't wait to get those measurements on the cats. By the way, it's awesome to see that.
Thinking about that, yeah, I do remember. I want to measure the kitties, and yeah.
So cool. Okay, so yeah. Any final words?
Wow.
You've given us a lot to think about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I know. How do you do the numbers? How do you do the muscle testing with numbers? Is it the same way, the back and forth, but you're just guessing numbers?
Like when I measured you or your kitties, you mean?
Yeah, or like sometimes you say that you came up with the parts per million and you said they used muscle testing for it. How do you do that? Do you just ask like, is it over 100 and you get yes? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So sometimes I go, is it yeah, over 100? Yes. Is it over 200? No. Is it 150? Okay. But a lot of times, actually in my muscle testing, as I was doing it, the numbers started coming into my head. I would just see the numbers and then
and then you would ask if it's correct.
And then I would confirm it by muscle testing.
Okay, gotcha. So, cool. Okay. All right.
That's pretty neat. A number would come in my head, and like, okay, that's the number. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Mhm.
All right. Well, gosh, thank you
So,
so much.
yeah, I would just say that just to have fun, play, investigate, try things and step out and um, don't worry or be afraid or anything. Just give it a try, and amazing things may happen. You know,
Yay.
you
All
won't
right.
know unless you try.
That's so true. And practice.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. And please go to check out her website and just yeah, explore around and see all the different neat things, because she'll be coming up with all kinds of new things, I'm sure, here in the future. And I hope that one of those things will be a CD. Um,
That's
so
an
yeah.
interesting idea.
You're welcome back anytime.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and everybody have a beautiful, beautiful day or weekend, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Thank you.